Here's some leaf damage caused by those slugs. They've really eaten in. And here's one of my traps. Take a look at a really big slug in there. He must have been one of them eating it. And then when I lift up the bucket, you can see more small ones at the bottom. So I'm going to take this right out of the ground. See, there's the liquid remains in the trap. Okay, I'm checking on my traps. Here's the cover. There's the trap. Doesn't look like there's one in it, but when you lift up, you see more on the bottom because this is the one with only orange juice in it. Okay, the next trap, open up. Now this trap has a whole bunch of the slugs all the way around the outside. They can't get out because of the funnel. This is a key point. You need the funnel. And how many are in the bottom? Wow, there's several in the bottom, quite a few in the bottom too. This trap has orange juice plus a half a teaspoon of yeast, active yeast. That's what was in this one. It looked much more productive than the first. The last one, this one had some beer, very dilute beer, but I put a teaspoon of yeast in it. But it's got a lot of them on the edges trying to climb out, quite a few inside. So that's a very good catch. This double container system is needed so that you do not need to empty the liquid every time you need to empty the slug trap. It is much less trouble to empty the slugs from the container as compared to mixing more liquid each time you empty the trap of slugs. It is difficult to even check how many slugs are in a single container system because the liquid is often cloudy because of the yeast. By watching nighttime videos without the funnel, more than half of the slugs drink and leave. If you have many slugs in a trap, without using a funnel, many more came, drank, and left. That is what many people who show slug traps on YouTube do not understand because they have not researched with nighttime videos to see what actually happens. This is how these slugs operate in these traps. They reach down and try to reach down and drink the liquid without falling in. So they just, if they had hind legs, they're holding on barely by their hind legs and reaching down. That's why you want a good inch below the rim of the funnel to the liquid. I'm not sure if this guy is going to fall in yet or what's going to happen, and there's one that already went in and then he climbed up the side, but he can't get out, of course. This is another good example how they fall in. Most of them, he must have fell in, but he can't get out because he's trapped. This is why this funnel is needed to use to catch these slugs. It's possible this slug is trying to pull himself up or to get out, but I don't know. I've lifted up the top bucket just a fraction so that he can't reach the liquid. And he looks like he's moving around a bit, but maybe he's too heavy to get up. He's just holding on by a thread. Amazing. There he fell. I'm describing how I make my slug traps. I found that these size containers work quite well. I use a 2-liter pop bottle container, and I can either use these here, or what does it says 640 gram, but they're yogurt containers. It's a good size, works reasonably well. These are 1-liter containers from the bulk barn. They work quite well too. I need containers that fit inside each other. These are both the same size, but just happen to have different markings. Same with this one here. And so, the tools I'm using, I've got a pair of scissors, pair of pliers, any pair of pliers will probably do, a pair of right-hand snips tin snips and a pair of left-hand tin snips. I find these work well for cutting plastic and any materials, but for cutting your different angles, you almost need these two type of tools. You can get by with other tools. It's a pain in the neck, but and I have a drill, and I have basically 1/16 drill bit, and I'm using a 3/32 drill bit, and I have a fine knife that I use to. I'll illustrate that later. Now, what I do with the pop bottle, I take a line. Let's see. If you take a pop bottle, you'll notice right at the top, this type of pop bottle anyway, it has a lip going right around the edge. And I drew a black circle, a black line right along that lip, because that's where I'm going to cut. Okay, I'm going to draw a line around this 2-liter pop bottle where I'm going to cut. So I try to, I try to keep it inside that lip. It's a hard time doing it, but it's not going to hurt anything if I'm... It doesn't hurt anything drawing outside the lines, just cutting outside the lines. Okay, now I forgot to mention I have a knife. This is where the scissors comes in handy. Okay, first of all, I'm cutting about a 1/4 inch out, and then I'll do a neater cut afterwards. Okay. I'm cutting near the black line, but I'm leaving the black line on. I'll cut more off later if I need to. I take a look at my bottle. See, it fits snugly right into that. I'll pull that out again and do that again. You can see the black line fits snugly right inside this size. It just happens that this container here, when I push it in, there's just a small fraction difference in the size, the diameter. And so it's tight there. And I would have to cut the black line off to make it fit in that one. With this container here is even a bit smaller. So I would have to cut more off to make it fit in that container. This one here I cut off earlier, and see, it will fit right inside this container here. Likewise, if I take this, I've already put, okay, I'll skip that one. I've already put some staples on the inside of this here. I put 3 staples on 3 corners. I divide it into 3 because it's easier. If you divide it into 4, it's too hard to get it out. So if I divide it into 3, it clipping it in under each one. There, it stays secure in there. To get it out, I use the knife, just get it under the lip there, and just get one corner up, and it comes out easy. Put that in again. It's clipped in, and to take it out, just over one of the clips, and it comes out easy. So now I'm going to take, well, since this happens to fit nice in this, perfectly in this size, I'm going to use this size to drill. So I'm going to take a 1/8 drill bit. I'm underneath the lip, going in. I guess at about maybe an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter. I go on 3 sides. That's divided into 3. I take my wire. I want 3 pieces. Take my pliers. Not very straight, but so what? Now I bend the ends over just a little bit so they don't stick up. Then I bend them in with my fingers, and they almost fit under that lip when I'm bending it up. That's 1. And make a little bit of a bend in, just to speed up the process. A little bit of a bend in. Guessing at my length. Little bit of a bend in so it doesn't stick up. Now I try to push it underneath the lip. And the last one. You can see me bending here, okay. Aha. Gotta go through from the inside. The pressure of doing this on camera. Okay. There. Now, when I try to put the funnel in, it makes a very snug fit. See, it's very snug. I can't even turn it actually, it's so snug. To take it out, I just have to get it under that lip and go over top of one of these staples, and it just comes out easy. The staple shouldn't bend, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a very small thin cutting off to make it cut a bit easier. I'm going to try to cut down the middle of that black line. There, very thin cutting. Now when I put it in, clips in nicely. When I go to remove it, it comes out nicely. The next step, I have to take this funnel off, the end of it, because when you take a look, it goes too far down, and I need more room at the bottom. It's tough cutting that funnel. Be careful you don't cut yourself if you're doing this. In fact, this is where these come in quite handy. Once you get the first piece cut off, it's much easier. Use these to cut around the other direction. Now I can trim it with these ones. This end is so thick you can't really cut it with scissors. You have okay, I can trim that off later. But when I put it in, you can see it's much higher, so it leaves more room for the liquid on the bottom. Now I take my .332 drill bit. You can use a slightly bigger drill bit. I use this size. I don't want the smallest of the slugs just going through the holes, like into the bottom, and messing up the liquid in the bottom. They wouldn't get through it alive anyway. You can drill through from the inside or the outside, depending on which way you find easier. I'll have to take this out. Or I can drill through from this side. So this one here, you can see that I've already drilled. I'll take out you can see the drill marks, how many drill holes I made in it. Likewise, I don't know how well this one will show up. And next. Okay, you can push the pause. Okay, I'm just trimming up the bottom of the funnel to make a neat edge. There, that's fairly good. And it'll fit well. See, you can hear it clip in as soon as I get it beyond those 3 clips. And I'll just take it out one more time. And I move that knife around over the clip where it comes out, just in case you can't see that easily. It's in there. I get the edge with the knife between the two. Okay, I guess that's good. I'll stop for the moment. I am ready to put the liquid in the container. First of all, I'm using this container. I put the holes in the bottom of this one. And you can see the 3 clips on top, on the edges. Now I'm going to put the funnel in. Before I put the funnel in, I'm going to put a flat stone in the bottom for a weight. I've found that they tend to float when they're in the liquid, these containers. Clips in nicely. You can hear the sound. Now I'm using orange juice because it shows up, that's why. I can see what the color is like. Okay. And what I do for the trap, I put in, if I'm using orange juice, I'll put in a half a teaspoon of active yeast. You find this does work. Active yeast, see, is the main key ingredient. Even with beer, I find if you put in a half a teaspoon of active yeast, it improves it. The cheapest solution I find is half a teaspoon of active yeast in a cup of warm water with a teaspoon of sugar and a teaspoon of flour. Some people, you don't really need the flour, but I find that it works slightly better with the teaspoon of flour in it. Now when that's well stirred, I'll take, and this container fits, you can see the funnel in there. Now when I put this container in, that rock will keep the container from floating, the top container from floating. You can take a look inside here. There's the rock. You see the holes when I go down. And this gives me, with these higher containers, this gives me a good 2 inches from the top of the funnel, from the bottom of the funnel to the liquid surface. So here's how you empty them. It's hard to see the level of the juice that's in the bottom, but you pull this out carefully and leave this part in the ground and let it drain, and you can see the level of the juice in this container there. And then you take your knife this would have the slugs in them. You take your knife, you slide it between the two, the funnel and the container, and over top of that one of the clips, and it'll come right out of the way, and then you can turn that upside down, hammer it on a piece of cardboard, like that on a piece of cardboard, and that's one way to get them out. And then you can take it out and wash it off before you put it all back together, or just put this funnel, clip the funnel back in place and then put it right back into the container. Okay. I'm digging my hole to bury the container. I'm putting the container in the ground. Now, some people like to put the dirt right up to the rim, and but depending on how high you put the dirt, like if you leave a ½ inch, they say some of the other critters don't fall in as easy. But I want to help the snails get in there good. Oh yes. And so that's the setup. Now if we lift that, just so you can see the bottom, the rock in the bottom. You can see the rock in the bottom when I lift that. Push it back down. And then put my cover over top to keep the rain out. I'm making some covers for the slug traps. This is what it looks like. I hope you can see that. We'll see. I'm just using 1.5 inch nails here. And that's how I make it. I'm going to try to empty this trap, so I got the knife between the two, the funnel and the container. I come around and try to get that as best I can. There. Got the funnel. And there's the trap. Now what I do is I'll just take, and there is a bunch of the slugs. I don't want that big one getting anywhere. He's going first. So the fastest way to get rid of them is just to make sure just cut him up with a pair of scissors. I washed out the trap. Now I'm putting the funnel back in. Clips into place. And now I'll put it back in the garden. Now put the funnel right back into the container, into the liquid. And I put the cover over top.